He's off. In progress. All right, y'all. Nathan jumped in here to help us out for the full talk. So thank you for jumping in at a little bit of short notice. Nathan's a software engineer currently building collaboration tools for creative industries. We're going to talk about managing projects with Obsidian.
Yep. All right. So yeah, this is my way of kind of geeking out about workflow and tool usage and things like that. Happy to share some of the fun things that I've got set up with an app called Obsidian. So like Ryan said, I work for a company called 180 Studio Software, small company, and we're doing some collaboration tools. Happy to talk more about that later if you'd like. And I'm going to be talking about Obsidian, and this is actually a URL, not just a file name. Obsidian is a Markdown notes app, and I'm going to be talking about that. So this is inspired in part from Joel's talk in January. He was talking about logging his work in public, in his case, in like a running issue. Mine is much more inward focused, I'll say, but that it is kind of at least related to the idea of keeping track of what you're doing. And when we're done, I hope you get some ideas about maybe some workflows and fun things to do with Obsidian, or maybe whatever systems that you use. So before I show you Obsidian, though, just philosophically, I have a tough time keeping track of everything, especially when I was at GitHub. Like there were so many long running open efforts that were started and paused and restarted, and so just keeping track of like what needs to happen next. What did I do? I mean, what did I do 3 months ago when this thing was put on hold? Like just being able to answer questions like that, and I can show you how I manage that. So. To-do apps, of course, exist. There's many of them. My experience has been that to-do apps are where things go to die. You can shuffle them, reorganize, and all of that. Ultimately, it seems like, at least in my experience, they always collapse under the weight of the things that are undone. You also lose out on things like context, like maybe notes and ideas that aren't necessarily a to-do, but just maybe, something to reference. So that's why things like notebooks can be handy. I'm a sucker for good paper, fountain pens. We can talk about that later too if you'd like. The problem with paper notebooks is that they're a physical artifact. It's fantastic when I'm working through a problem. Not so great if I want to take a to-do item that I wrote down 3 pages ago and like move it forward, unless I like copy it out by hand. Which there are systems like of doing that make that intentional, and that's great, but not my style. So digital systems, notes apps, there's Obsidian, Craft, Notion, Logseek. I even know someone who used to use TiddlyWiki, which is like a single page HTML thing from way back in the day to keep track of stuff. And of course, there's tons more. But that's kind of generally the idea, at least here. I want a more robust kind of digital system that's easy to work with and flexible enough to like do things the way that I want to do. And one other brief note about organization. I use something called the para method. There's a whole book about it. There's like websites or you could just listen for the next 60 seconds and I will cover all of it you need to know. 4 areas: projects, areas, resources, and an archive. Basically, it's a super lightweight way of like, where does my stuff go? Is it a project? Is it something that I'm like actively working on that has like a fixed known outcome, a handful of next things to do, and that's it? That's a project. Is it open-ended, like my house? Well, that doesn't have a fixed end date, at least until I move. So that's going to be an area. So this could also be, I mean, anything at work too, of course. Resources is everything else. Reference notes, meeting notes, people, and I'm not using that in the HR human resources sense. It's just like if I am mentioning someone, then I will put that person in a note in my resources folder, and then I can take notes. And you're like, oh, hey, they left their job at this time and went to this new place. Like, cool. Now I can like go look that up later or whatever. I'll show you that too. And then archive, that's where everything else goes. But when you're done with it, if it's no longer relevant, you don't have to delete it. You can keep it around, but it just goes in archive. And then you can essentially treat it as irrelevant unless you need to go dig for it later. All right, daily notes is one addition to this. This is a common pattern in lots of note-taking apps in various forms. Either a single note that's like per day. Your physical notebook, you might put a date on the top of each new page. Some apps do like a running daily log that's just like an infinite document that just has a new header for each day, that kind of thing. The point with a daily note, though, is that it's a place to capture the stuff that happened on that particular day that doesn't necessarily need to fit anywhere else. Like it's not the context of a project, it's just whatever happened that day that you want to write down. Okay, so Obsidian, briefly, is a notes app that does that. It is built on top of Markdown, and this is kind of their company philosophy, is that you own your data. It's just a big pile of Markdown documents in a folder, and that's it. And then the app adds a lot of stuff on top of that, but underneath it all is just a bunch of Markdown. And that way, if you want to go somewhere else, do something else, you're not locked into their ecosystem or anything else like that. It's got a huge ecosystem of plugins and ways of extending it and things like that. You can get really complicated with it. I'll show you a little bit of that. All right, so let me just show you now if I can make this window go away. Okay, so guided tour through Obsidian itself. This is Obsidian, and we're going to open the tour intro note. So this is what it looks like. It's Obsidian, it's a note, it's Markdown, there's headers. It's kind of a WYSIWYG editor, code snippets, to-do lists. Nothing particularly amazing or surprising here. Oh, you know what? Let me add one more thing here. Good. Okay. Lower left of my screen here, you can see the actual keyboard shortcuts I'm typing. Okay. So this is, well, the left sidebar. Usually you just have your, list of things. I call these 0, 1, 2, 3 just for sorting, and they're also at the top of the list always. But you can see here, I've got daily, projects, areas, resources, and down here, archive. A couple other things like attachments and templates, things that Obsidian uses, and maybe some top level notes like a README file. That is because this is all in a repo, which I'll link you to at the end. To the right, you also can have, additional sidebar things. And in this case, I've got a calendar. You'll notice here there's a section for linked notes. Obsidian actually acts a lot like a wiki. So double bracket syntax, linking to other notes. You can look here and see that this one, daily notes, which is the next thing in the tour here, is linking to this document. And I can see that here in the list. It's also linked to in the README. And to demo the linking here, I just type 2 brackets, and then we're going to link to the next note here in the tour. All right, so daily notes. A couple quick things. There's a command palette, does everything, has all the commands and things. We are going to use the daily note. Daily note. Open today's daily note. All right, now we are in today's daily note. We did, whoop, I gotta switch to the insert. We did some stuff today. Do a thing. Okay, we did the thing. Let's check that off. Right on. So cool. We've got daily note. In the sidebar here, you'll see a dot shows up for that day. If we click here, creates a new daily note for the previous day, whatever. You can kind of click around and navigate between days, see your daily notes and things like that.
Is this
Yes.
built into Obsidian or is this a plugin?
This is a plugin, I think actually. Is it yes, it is a plugin called Calendar. I mean, surprisingly, it's called Calendar.
What a name.
Yeah, right. So, okay. I guess real quick, I'll jump to the fact that this is a repo. I list all of the stuff that I've done to customize this Obsidian Vault. There's a bunch of plugins that I use, like setting search calendar, paste URL, and it's like, you can look at all these. There's a bunch of plugins that I use here. I'll be showing you some of them. A lot of them, like calendar, like it should be built in because I mean, why would you not have a calendar if you're using daily notes, for example? So, so I created a daily note, showed you the calendar. And let me know if I'm moving too fast too. So, all right. So projects. To make a project note, we're actually going to use more than just going to the projects folder and like typing in a new note and like with the title and all that. I'm not going to do that by hand every time I want to start a new project. So we're going to use a couple things. First is there's a plugin called Templater. big surprise, it does templating. And there's also a quick add plugin, which kind of ties into the templater for, can you guess? Quickly adding stuff. Okay, so there's a project template here. There's just a note here. It lives in the reveal. It just lives here in the templates folder for use. Oops. This has a properties thing on it. This is actually YAML front matter that lives in the Markdown document. So if we looked at this Markdown document on disk, you'd just see a little YAML front matter thing with a properties here. There's another plugin that I use to predefine these as like a fixed list of things for the current status of project. And you can do things with these status fields or just arbitrary properties yourself later, like, show me everything that's in progress, ignore the stuff that's closed or whatever. I always have like a references section in case there's like a related GitHub issue or something else. And then the important pieces for me are the log section and the next section. This right here, this little syntax here that looks like ERB is a template or template. And instead of looking at the template anymore, let's make a new project. I'm going to skip showing you the settings of how these are configured. But project. We're going to do this quick add, create new project. Give a presentation at Ruby. Cool. And now you can see it took that user input, the name, title of the project. It's opened it. It's created this project in my projects folder. I date them by year and month because by day, I mean, a project kind of by definition is longer than a day probably. Let's skip the references section here. But yeah, give the thing. Prepare final bits. Great. Okay, well, I haven't done that yet. Now, the log is super useful. Follow-up, publish slides. I may not actually do this because the slides don't have much. We can talk. It's fine. But, a next task, like I can keep track of stuff that I want to do next. Follow-up. By license to a presenter because I'm using the demo version of it right now. And you can even, I kind of organize my next section in like subheaders if I need to keep track of like various ideas and things like that. So I've got a couple next actions here for this project. This log here is useful too. You'll notice this is a link that goes back to my daily note. And there's nice ways of dealing with dates as well in Obsidian. There's another plugin called Natural Dates. I type caret and I can say yesterday if I can type. And I do this a lot in my log section here is a way that I keep track of things that I did or notes that I took or whatever happened for this specific project. So that way I'm not logging all the different project stuff in my daily note because then it's kind of hard to find it later. Like, what did I actually do for this specific project? So yesterday, panic. Right, slides, right? Okay. And so forth. And so that little natural language template's helpful if I ever need to drop a link. I also have quick shortcuts for like adding a new log entry. I mean, okay, so today's a new day. I can hit Command-Shift-L or log. Insert daily log here is the template that I'm inserting. It just does that daily header for me, so I can just quickly add new things to my logs. Okay, so that's a project. Showed you that. Let's see, all of that. Kind of similar thing for meeting note. I'm not going to show you the template. I will show you the quick add. Meeting. Create a meeting note called folder Ruby. Cool. So there's participants. Well, this is just one way of doing a meeting note. If we do reveal in navigation, this got dropped into hopefully my meeting notes folder under resources. It's kind of named after the current day. I could also put an explicit link here like when today if I wanted to. Participants. Okay, well, here's another cool plugin called @mention. So if you use GitHub, and when I was at GitHub in particular, this was important because everyone I interacted with, I knew them by their handles. So I was awfully used to typing @ in Slack or in GitHub. So let's say that Rylan was here. Rylan B, cool. This plugin actually lets me search for people. You can see it's looking in my resources people folder, or if that person doesn't exist in my documents, create it. So now I can go to Rylan here, where, where he works or whatever. I can say, hey, cool guy, right on.
Yes.
And now in my meeting notes, so I can keep track of that. Now, here's what's cool about this. If I have a note for people that I interact with or meet with or have discussions with or whatever, what if Rylan comes to me in 3 months and says, hey, can you write me a performance evaluation? Whoop, that is not the window. There we go. Click here. I can look at the linked mentions and, oh, hey, there's a project. Here's the meeting I had with him on this day. Here's a project note in the log entry where I was talking with him about some particular thing. That's really helpful. That's review time.
This kind of feels like an extension of the Sparkle system.
A little bit, yeah, yeah.
Where you
So-
can tag when someone did something cool and highlight.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really helpful. Like if you have like, especially when I was a kid, I was doing lots of architectural discussions and reviews and things. It was helpful for me later to say, oh, right, who did I talk to about that thing? I can go back to the project note or the meeting note and like, oh, it was these people, right? Okay, and then kind of review the notes that I took or whatever. So it's a nice way of handling that. This is an important point. The weight of the to-dos is at least somewhat alleviated. I don't have this massive just list of all the to-dos everywhere. Everything's kind of partitioned by a project or an area. If the project is no longer relevant, guess what? I mark it as on hold or canceled and put it in the archive. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So it's a way of it's enough organization where it doesn't feel overwhelming. Now there is a problem here though. We did this meeting note, we had that project that had some logs. And if I go to my daily note, well, there's no mention of that unless, I go and like look for the links or whatever. And this bothered me. So I used another plugin that I'm going to talk about next. And that's called Data View. And this is adds basically a query language that operates against your vault. Sorry, vault here is that's Obsidian's name for like this collection of all the Markdown documents, including a .obsidian folder that houses all the plugins and settings and all that kind of stuff. You can back that up, you can sync it, that kind of stuff. So Data View lets you do like kind of like SQL against your project. Or your vault. So this is maybe not the simplest query, but give me a table without the ID, which just leaves off a little piece. Give me the file link called project, give me the status, and give me the length of the file.tasks where they're not completed. And it actually goes in and looks for tasks, which are just like to-do list lines. And then here we go. My house area has one undone task. Oh, right. I got to replace the water filter. There's an example of an area that lasts forever, right? And then give a presentation. There's 6 tasks remaining. And that is wrong, actually. So I am going to have to, oh, you know what? I wonder. This is the example, and this is, okay, well, anyway, query is wrong. There's a bug, and probably I'll blame myself for that. But anyway, you get the idea. It's pretty cool. Okay, so JavaScript, Data View also has a JavaScript API, so you can do kind of similar things with like JavaScript. Like a DV is the data view kind of object. It's just there in your context or whatever. Let pages equal, so dv.pages, you give it the query, you can give it conditions, sort by things, and then when you have that result, I can say emit a list into the document that is the pages mapped, and then for each page, I'm going to dump the file link to the file path. So there's the list of all the open areas and projects that are labeled as in progress. So if I go to house and I change that property to on hold and go back here, it's no longer in that list. So that's cool. I actually don't use this very often. I know people have done lots of really complicated things because you can query based on those properties of the documents. You can build like a database of all the books you've read and like what you thought about them, and that by author, and like you include all those properties and build a database. There's also now a native plugin that's built into Obsidian called Bases, which is it's their take on this kind of style of like treating things as a database in some sense. I haven't really tried to use it much, but that's basically it. So now one additional thing here though is like that JavaScript API. You can also pull in external scripts. So here I have this data view daily. Actually, here, let me go to next tasks. This is kind of a top level document. This is one pattern I do as well. I have a top level kind of next tasks or next tasks at, company or whatever, just to kind of, if there's nowhere else for a to-do to go, I'll throw it into this document. It's probably where it's going to go to die, which is fine. But at least, it's captured somewhere as an idea. I review that every now and again just to maybe pick up what I missed and like, oh, that actually could be a really cool project to do now because, whatever. So here's another data view query list where they're in progress. And here, await, it's async and whatever, but data view next is going to load a JavaScript file, which is data view.js. And I'm going to pass in this query and this filter and say, give me the next tasks for the currently open projects. And that gets rendered down here as the next tasks. And one additional detail, it breaks it down by heading and subheading inside that next section. So here I've got, since there were two sections there's the one section for next and there's the one section for next follow-up, right? So it's just a nice way of like breaking things down, like showing me kind of like a quick overview of what's next, all my current like open stuff. And that looks like this. I'm not going to let you read or make you read all this. It basically grabs the page with the query here, and then it loads the content and does some basic simple parsing to like find the headers, find the next header, grab everything underneath that, and then like pull out the tasks from there. So it's a nice way of pulling some extra information and like making it nice and contextual. Okay, so one other detail here though is I have this data view daily script. And if we go to the daily note here at the end and we dump this data view in here, it's going to show me everything related to today. It's going to pull in the project log entry and actually here, one important thing. And here's what I learned. Okay. What's cool here though is here, you'll see it included not just the to-dos, but the entire contents. So they've got notes and all of that. You can see there's a meeting note. It pulls in the entire contents. It went great, at least so far. Okay. And it pulls in the whole content. So everything that basically happened kind of today, anytime I'm dropping a link or a log entry related to the day gets dropped in here. So I actually add this snippet to my daily note template. So when it makes a new daily note, it automatically has this bit of code in there. And I always get kind of the related things that happened on that day. So now I can organize my work and log my stuff in the various places where I feel like it belongs, but I can also come back to my daily note and pull it all together and kind of see what happened. And this is great combined with the calendar view because now I can look at each day and see, here's all the things that happened this day, which is helpful if you're doing like a weekly stand-up. It's easy to kind of skim back and just, here's all the things that happened. And you don't have to go looking around in all your projects to find things. It's also helpful during review time as well. It's the other thing. You can just click further back in your calendar and assemble notes that way. All right, so back to the tour. Data view, I showed you that. Great. Okay, more magic. You can do other things with Templater, in particular, Templater plugin. You can invoke external commands. And I use this a lot because, working at or then still with GitHub. Obviously, we do lots of pull requests and issues. Like that's probably not very unique, right? Now, I don't like things like bare URLs. I can do things like I'm going to use a quick keyboard shortcut that is a plugin that is now going out to fetch the title from the public web page. Now that's awesome because it kind of drops in like the full like title of the web page. That's neat. Well, that doesn't work if it's a private repo because it's not going to be available to this script because it's not authenticated. And I don't actually like this format either. I don't like this so much. I would much rather see it look a little bit more like a GitHub issue reference that you would drop into the repo. So I have a templater. I'll actually show you the config. Templater, you can configure these external commands here, way down the list, called markdown link, and it invokes the GitHub CLI with the MD link command. And that GHMD is it's a plugin that I wrote for the CLI. You can find that it's actually linked in this vault here that basically takes the input URL and converts it to a nice link. So if we do that, ghmd link, and I give it the URL to that Rails issue, it goes out, uses the GitHub API to fetch that and dumps out a markdown link in a more pleasant format, at least pleasant in my opinion. Or if you want just like a simple reference style link, it gives you that as well. So that's now tied into the templater system. And then you can invoke that from your templates. And ultimately what this looks like is insert GitHub markdown link quick add, pulls the URL off my clipboard, dumps it in this nice format. And that is, of course, bound to a keyboard shortcut. So it's easy to add. So anytime I'm like, review, blah, cool. Like that gets a lot easier to make my notes look nice and have the link to the relevant issue. Things like that. Okay, more cool stuff here. With templater and making these external calls is an issue project. So here's the actual template here. It's doing some fun stuff. We're using templater to rename the file based on a user function called markdown title, based on the contents of the clipboard. Drops in a reference, drops in the log and next section, just like you'd expect. So instead of letting you read this any further, I'm just going to show you. Create project for GitHub issue. So my clipboard has that URL on it right now. So if I do this and hit enter, I now have a project titled issue dash date, pulls the title from GitHub, drops the link in there, and now I've got a log that I can start logging the work and notes or whatever for a particular issue. Okay, another way to use this is you can use that ghmd link plugin, or you can just call the GitHub API directly. And let's go back to Rylan here. So this is cool and all, like this is his GitHub handle. Rename from GitHub user. Goes out to the GitHub API using RylanB as his username, fetches it, renames the link. And I don't know if you caught it in the upper right-hand corner, there was a little toast that popped up saying it also renamed the links. Obsidian keeps track of where things are linked. So if you rename a document, it will also update all of the links to that document. So it didn't break any of those existing things. So if we go to the meeting note, it's now updated to match that format. So yeah, it's a nice way of, tracking people and mapping their handle to their real name so you can refer to them either way. So now later, if I want to mention Rylan, I can type Rylan and it's going to find his note in my thing and I can just insert the link there. Okay, finally, and this is just for show. I've never actually used this seriously. There's a graph view. And it shows you all the links between your stuff. So I've been using Obsidian for 5.5, 6 years, something like that. So this is my actual vault. If you go to the graph view, that's what it looks like. So yeah, you can see there's my next document that has all my to-dos dumped into it, for example. So yeah.
Next page take a while to load, but I mean, it's just.
Oh, no.
I guess, so.
Yeah, it's just marked out. These data view things are pretty quick. Like I've never noticed any lag on that. So yeah. Even with a large vault or large set of projects. I mean, I try not to keep too many open projects. And I say that like I've probably maxed out like 20 or so open projects just because all the various things I would get pulled into and things, but so I guess maybe it's not having to parse too much, but yeah. All right. So I think that concludes the tour. Okay, yeah. So I talked, even more. So I haven't talked anything at all about LLMs. I know people actually, it sounds there's various MCPs for Obsidian. I've heard that people have had even better success by just running open code or Claude code directly in the Vault directory, and it just works better that way. So there's lots more you can do. There's an Obsidian CLI, things like that. Way more you can do. You can spend all the time in the world doing this instead of the actual work you're paid to do.
Which is the point.
That's right. Yes. So yeah, in summary, there's some ideas and fun stuff the way that I do my work, and maybe get some cool ideas. So like I said, this is in a repo now. You can actually download this and open this as a Vault in Obsidian. You'll see all the stuff that I just showed you, minus the notes I added and things like that. So it's got all the configuration there. You can look through the way I set up the plugins, you know, like the icons on that file view on the left. You can see how I set all that up. So
Drop that in tech friends.
yes, I will. Yep. I'll do that after. All right, any questions? Any things you want to see or?
More of a comment slash thank you,
Sure.
but I had to switch from Notion and I was obsessed with the databases there.
Okay.
Everything
Yes.
was a database. And
Okay.
I switched to Obsidian and I was like I don't feel like a power user, like I don't know how. I had no idea it was like so easy to make it better.
So data view I think is probably kind of outdated at this point because now there's this bases thing. You can find it in the Obsidian docs. I think they've spent like the last year or two working on that. And that's probably, I would guess it's going to get you closer to that Notion style database kind of a thing. So
And you can have your vault sync, you know, on your phone, you can access the same.
Yes.
vault in many different locations.
yes, and there's caveats with that. So there is a plugin called Get something, whatever. I use that, of course, that is just, I use that solely for backup. It just does like a periodic git commit and git push, which is great. So at least I have a copy in GitHub or whatever of my vault. You can also use that for syncing, although I think it gets a little weird in mobile because there's no native mobile Git client. Friends of mine have had success using iCloud to sync. It's also gets a little weird sometimes because iCloud doesn't do conflict resolution. It just says, oh, well, it just drops 2 files next to it. So there's some cleanup you sometimes have to do if it gets out of sync. I use Obsidian's built-in sync. I just pay them because I mean, I obviously use Obsidian a lot. And that works also really well. I haven't had any problems with it, at least on Mac. One of my friends tried it on Windows and had like constant corruption in his vault, which is not ideal. So maybe it doesn't work as well on Windows. I don't know. So yeah, the Obsidian Sync, like their first party service works great for me. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't mind.
Using Notion because my boss didn't want me putting stuff in cloud, so I don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if nothing else, well, I guess, well, you can always do it with a Git and like put it in a repo,
Yeah.
clone it.
Wait, so you just put it in the cloud? Yeah.
Well, sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Different.
Oh, fun.
Saves behind my scroll.
Just put it on the thumb drive and just.
I mean, you've got a long-lived session token. I
Right.
saw for sale on Mark's Russian chat.
Right. I use a tool called Sync Thing, because they're just that kind of apps. So a very Linuxy sort of approach.
Trying to stop sharing. There it is. Okay.
I think Obsidian sync is into.
It is.
I didn't vote. I have my on my personal laptop, my Git directory, which is my Obsidian notes, is actually in Dropbox. So
Yep,
that seems
there you go.
fair. So that's actually how I would look at it on my phone or something like that. If I can choose a Dropbox client.
Yeah.
I hardly ever look at it on my phone. Or anything.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually, because if you do sync it with Dropbox or iCloud even, you don't have to use the Obsidian app because it is just Markdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
File.
So yeah, you
Directory,
can use another Markdown app if you want to, that even works. I mean, you lose out on the fancy fun stuff. But if you're on your phone, like maybe at least I personally rarely need to do anything but refer to something briefly, but
It's the read only side.
yeah. So
But yeah, my work laptop has it as a Git directory, it's pushed to GitHub. But the doing Git on Dropbox is its own thing sometimes. But yeah. I do get conflicts because I have an automatic daily note, and when I open it up on my one laptop and it's over on the other one, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't pulled before I launched Obsidian. So the first thing it does is like open it before it doesn't pull automatically, but it'll commit and push like every time period that you specify. So
Just want to plug my favorite plugin, which is called Recipe Grabber.
yeah.
You paste in a URL and it just grabs the recipe.
Oh my gosh, and not all the ads.
Not all the ads, like just.
It's like a 10-paragraph backstory about.
It filters all that out.
Know the recipe, please.
Formats that people use.
Yeah.
And you can get around New York Times paywalls,
Yeah.
so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, heard good things about Pepper. But this one will get past America's Test Kitchen
Okay.
because they paywall everything, but then the entire recipe's there and JSON payload.
Nice. Yeah,
I like that. My question is, do you have any tips on discipline? Because my problem is every time I set up a system, it gets, I forget to go clean it, do that daily stuff.
Can't help you there.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you couldn't hear on Zoom. Question was, what do you do for discipline, like to make sure that you keep your vault clean and tidy and organized and stuff? And I don't have any suggestions there. I struggle with it too. But this has felt, at least for me, lightweight. Like now that I've gotten everything into one place, like kind of working for me, I haven't really had to tweak it too much lately. Actually, I wasn't able to show you. I did convert that data view snippet. That is now a plugin, which took some remarkable hackery, and I was basically like copy and pasting JavaScript back and forth with Claude to make it work. So I don't know if it's even releasable, but it worked. What it does is it meant I could go back and like remove that snippet from like 1,000+ daily notes. So now my daily note doesn't have that. It just renders all the related stuff automatically, kind of magically. So, and then maybe just one shot that yourself with Claude. It probably might be just as easy.
That's a feature that you stopped using.
Yeah.
That's possible, right?
It obviously wasn't valuable enough to motivate you. I find it a lot, like my system has had to flow over the years.
Yeah.
Because I would expand to something like this, but like I'd abandon it because I wasn't getting like value.
Yeah. I've gotten enough value, especially for things like reviews and things like that. Like, I mean, Joel, you're doing like you're logging in public.
That's what motivated me was the reviews. Like it actually
Yeah.
paid off. That
Oh yeah.
the problem is that it took a review cycle to get there.
That's true, but is it ever worth it
It's
though?
not worth it.
Yeah. And the nice thing, I mean, this is like I said, it's kind of my inward focus. Like yours is more like part of the way you do your tracking issue is that's public communication. Here's what I'm working on, which is valuable from an organizational perspective and kind of work in public. Mine, of course, is very internally driven here, but and I also can include more notes and things that maybe wouldn't be relevant for public view. So
I see some of your stuff. I'm like, I feel like that's what I'm missing in my ability to write things that aren't shared.
yeah.
Because
right.
like I try to be pretty candid, but there's just certain things you just don't.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We are recording.
But I like that idea of like, just like I don't record like notes about like someone's personal life that I talked about in the one-on-one. I don't want to put that in like the
Yeah, totally. Right.
I think that one of the things I've seen people do this, like you were saying that because it's just a markdown, LLMs love markdown.
Mhm.
They literally taken the performance review prompt, put it into Claude and said, just answer these questions based on this data set, and they just pasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have
One shot it.
I mostly did that.
I've done that actually. I ended up getting better quality by doing it myself. Which actually, one nice thing about
Did you
doing
get
it
the
myself.
performance review? Did you try doing it one shot?
I did. No, I gave it the. Oh no, I didn't try it. No. See, no. Well, here's the thing. I really liked my manager. So like he wanted bullet points, not bullet points expanded into LinkedIn format. So you actually running through by hand actually felt pretty good. Just as like reflect, yeah, I did do all this cool stuff. Hey, I am good at my job.
Did you sort of disrespect to not actually put the time into it that the person reading it would put into it?
That is
like if you spend less
yes.
time on creating something
That's true.
than they will do consuming it, it feels like you've kind of slighted them and saying you low away.
Yeah, that's maybe more about your organization. And like I said, I liked my manager and like worked closely to.
You're still probably using AI to summarize what.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No. He would. Well, yeah, he was a really good manager. So best manager I had actually, I think actually. So but yes, yeah. Throw your LLMs at it. People, I've heard seen mention of people using Obsidian to like log their project task prompt kind of things, and they say, "Oh yeah," and then store your notes here as you do this, and like they point their agents at their vault, and like it's kind of like back, or they have their agent has its own vault or whatever to share information, and like you can, I'm sure you could go nuts with this because it is just markdown. So. Cool.
Yeah, Copilot.